Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really digging into the early life, the European adventures of one of the most fascinating songwriters ever, Cole Porter.
Yeah, specifically looking at those really formative years, wouldn't you say? Like the late 1910s through the early 30s.
Exactly. We're exploring how that whole world across the Atlantic just profoundly shaped him, the man, and his music.
And this whole deep dive, it's for you based on this great source material you've given us. It's a really rich look at how the people, the places, everything he encountered over there, it wasn't just like background noise.
No, it became the actual fabric of his art, didn't it?
Right. So our mission here is to kind of view this glittering, pretty complex time through his eyes, you know, using what our source tells us.
Pulling out those surprising details, the insights.
Yeah, absolutely. Should be quite a ride high society, artistic breakthroughs, and some really unexpected personal stuff, too.
Okay, let's get into it. Our source kicks things off with this fantastic story, really vivid, about the first time a young Moss Hart met Cole Porter.
Oh, yeah, 1933, the Ritz Bar in Paris. Classic. Hart has this letter, right? And a gift from a friend, George Hale.
So picture this. Hart gives Porter the gift. It's these two thin gold slabs engraved CP sitting on white satin.
And Hart's just standing there, a bit confused, asking, what are they?
And Porter, totally deadpan, just says, garters.
Garters, gold garters. But then he actually puts them on, right?
Right. Our source says Hart watched, completely amazed, as Porter lifts his trousers, shows the gold garters he's already wearing on his socks, takes those off, puts the new ones on.
And then just calls the barman, "Hey, Jimmy!" and tosses the old gold ones across the bar like they're nothing, like lint.
Incredible. And our source says that moment just captures so much about him right away.
Yeah, it had that gaiety, the impishness, the audacity, and the wonderful insouciance that you hear in his songs.
That abandoned, stunning freshness, dash, the lyrical agility. It felt totally new back then, didn't it?
Yeah.
Especially for American audiences.
Completely. It sets up that image perfectly, the jet-set man, like a character straight out of Gatsby.
Right. That world of the rich, the glamorous, the slightly outrageous. Our source makes it clear that wasn't an act. That was him.
Down to his socks, literally.
Ha, exactly. But, okay, our source also stresses something really crucial right from the start. You can't talk about Cole in Europe without talking about Linda.
Absolutely essential. And the source really pushes back against dismissing his wife, Linda Lee Thomas, just because of Cole's homosexuality. Her influence was, well, immense.
How does the source describe her? What was her impact?
It paints this picture of someone with immense delicacy, an enchanting turn of mind, a legendary beauty. She apparently lent something of her own radiance and splendor to their whole life together.
And they met in Paris.
At a society wedding, yeah. Linda was already a wealthy divorcee, and she was just captivated by him at the piano, singing these incredibly witty songs, you know, full of double meanings.
The friendship first, then love.
That's how our source puts it. And Linda became his, what the source calls his finishing school. She was older, nearly 8 years, and kind of mirrored the influence his mother, the great Kate, had on him.
And she was smart, too. Bernard Berenson called her a great beauty with great brains.
Oh, yeah. Super sophisticated. Connections everywhere. Shaw, Galsworthy, Churchill, European nobility, even royalty. And a serious collector, too, especially Chinese art.
And the source connects this directly to his music, right? Her taste mattered.
Hugely. It says, unless she was sold on a song, Porter kept working at it. She saw him as someone who could elevate Broadway with style.
Wow. She was the air that made Cole's sales move. That's quite a quote from the source.
Isn't it? It really sums it up. And their Paris home, 13-room Monsieur, it sounds like the physical embodiment of all that style.
Oh, the description is amazing. Art Deco Central. Zebra rugs, marble floors, red lacquer chairs, white kidskin cushions, platinum wallpaper.
And that huge mirrored basement room just for parties and dancing. You can just picture it.
Definitely. And Linda's connections weren't just for show, were they? They opened doors.
Big time. Our source has these great anecdotes, like visiting the Duke of Alba in Seville and the Prince of Wales, the future Edward VIII, who is apparently terribly shy, whispering to Porter how much he loved American music. Cole, what wouldn't I give for just 5 minutes of good old American ragtime?
Amazing. And they met Lindbergh, too.
Yeah, through Schuyler Parsons, and Porter being this indefatigable sightseer, this tourist avant la lettre, as the source calls him.
Meaning like a tourist before the term really existed.
Kind of, yeah. driven by this insatiable curiosity. Anyway, he was actually there at Le Bourget when the Spirit of St. Louis landed.
Wow. And the source thinks that might have inspired the song Pilot Me.
It speculates, yeah, and that curiosity took them everywhere. Linda was into Egyptology, friends with Lord Carnarvon and Howard Carter.
The Tutankhamun guys?
No way. Yes, Carter actually guided them on a 2-month Nile trip. Our source suggests maybe that inspired songs like Ruins or Why Don't We Try Staying Home?
It fits. And what about the Cling Cling Bird? The source mentions that one too.
Yeah, as characteristic Porter, unusual structure, rhythms, those kind of cheeky body lyrics about faraway places. That wanderlust was always there.
Even early on, like in I Have a Shooting Box in Scotland.
Exactly. Written way back in 1914, the lyrics are all about being a rolling stone, preferring travel over collecting mossy vegetation. He wanted experiences.
Paris was home base, but Venice. Venice seems special in the source.
Oh, completely. It was a childhood obsession, apparently, stemming from seeing a theater curtain depicting the Grand Canal.
And then inheriting money allowed them to actually live there.
For 5 summers straight, renting these incredible palazzos, Barbaro, Papadopoli, Cabrazzonico.
The one where Robert Browning died.
His idol.
The very same. And surprise, surprise, he was at the heart of Venetian high society there, too.
Diana Vreeland saw him rowing a gondola.
At 6 a.m., taking the oar himself, she said, everything with him was rhythm. He looked so appetizing. He had the patina of the world. Just classic Vreeland, but captures him perfectly. But it wasn't all smooth sailing, was it? Diaghilev wasn't a fan.
None of the American influence, no. Our source quotes him complaining in 26 about Cole Porter because of his jazz and his Negroes, teaching the Charleston on the Lido.
Gondoliers threatening American women. Sounds tense.
A bit. And some saw renting those grand palazzos as terribly nouveau riches. A clash of cultures, definitely.
But wait, wasn't Porter friendly with the ballet Russes? Didn't he help them out?
He did. Financially supported them, even hosted an evening for them in 24 at Palazzo Papadopoli, played piano when scores went missing. It's complex.
And the source mentioned something about Diaghilev's assistant, Boris Kokno. An attraction there.
Yes, our source notes Cole's intense attraction to Kokno, reflected in some letters sounding very much like, what is this thing called love? So Diaghilev's public complaints might have been mixed with, well, other dynamics.
Artistic rivalry, maybe money, personal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's never simple, is it?
Rarely. And back in Paris, Porter was just as central to the artistic scene. Our source paints this incredible picture of an after-party in 1923 for Stravinsky's La Noce.
On a boat on the Seine.
Yeah. Champagne dinner. The guest list was insane. Stravinsky, Picasso, Cocteau, Diaghilev again, Darius Milhaud. Just a who's who.
And the hosts were Gerald and Sarah Murphy. The couple Fitzgerald-based tender is the night on.
The very same. Porter knew Gerald from Yale. Gerald was a painter, connected, and later took over the family business, Mark Cross.
Which Porter mentions in I Introduced. It all connects.
It really does. And he was a regular at Princess de Polignac's salons, too. Met Arthur Rubinstein there.
The pianist who played better with Porter's champagne.
Ha! According to Porter, yes.
Oh.
And the composer Francis Poulenc, who dedicated a song to Linda.
It seems like there was this playful tension, though. Sir Thomas Beecham mocking his Venice parties and jazz.
Right, in that pamphlet, The Tragical History of Young King Cole.
But Porter fired back musically.
With operatic pills, yeah. Our source suggests it was all quite lighthearted, maybe even a sign of mutual admiration beneath the surface jabs.
Which brings up his relationship with quote-unquote serious music. Did he study formally?
There were attempts. Princess de Polignac tried setting up lessons with Stravinsky. Linda hoped he'd go that route.
But the Stravinsky lessons fell through. Our source mentions a contract.
Yeah, it got complicated. Stravinsky apparently wanted an exorbitant fee. Porter's lawyer pushed back hard, and Stravinsky felt quite hurt by the whole thing, according to a letter in our source.
But he did study with others. Darius Milhaud was important.
Crucial. Milhaud recommended him for that ballet within the quarta, for the Ballet Suédois.
With a scenario by Gerald Murphy, right?
Yes. And Milhaud introduced him to Charles Coquelin.
Ah, the composer who orchestrated within the quota. And Coquelin gave him lessons.
Intensive ones, our source says. 8 lessons in 11 days the Ritz, then 5 more. Though Coquelin also overcharged, apparently.
Our source flags this as important, right? That the Coquelin lessons show real dedication, even if biographies sometimes gloss over it.
Exactly. But then you also get these other accounts in the source. Some saying he skipped classes, that it was maybe just for show.
Or that he quit formal study because it interfered with his own rhythm. Found Dundee too restrictive.
Right. Too stifling for his need for new rhythms, for everything fresh.
So the source doesn't pick a side. It's more like he engaged with it on his own terms.
That seems to be the takeaway. He sought technique when needed, like with Kuklin, but wouldn't sacrifice his unique voice for academic rules, forging his own path.
Which makes sense, given his love for opera. That started young.
Oh, yeah. Trips with his mother as a kid, studying Rosenkavalier at Yale before it even premiered in the U.S., going to opera in Italy with the score and a flashlight.
And you hear that in his songs. The source mentions the wide range, the tessitura.
Demanding almost operatic technique, especially from singers like Merman, pushing melodies upwards with almost Wagnerian intensity.
Wow. Wagnerian intensity in a Broadway song.
It's that fusion, classical feel, modern touch, like Bring Me Back My Butterfly, part cabaret, part Puccini, according to the source.
Leo Smith's analysis in the source points this out too, that he hid his sophisticated craft.
Yeah, Smith says he drew on Tchaikovsky, Beethoven, Schubert, Brahms, but concealed the solutions brilliantly within those pop song structures.
And his own editor, Doc Surmay, compared every time to Schubert and Schumann, called it immortal.
He did, suggesting Porter was operating on that level beneath the surface gloss, real compositional depth.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. Paris wasn't just about high art and expats, right? The source emphasizes the African-American performers finding freedom there.
A vital point. Freedom and appreciation they couldn't always find in the U.S. No prohibition, lower cost of living. It was a haven.
And Ches Bricktop was ground zero.
Absolutely. 66 Rue Pigalle drew everyone. Porter, the Windsors, Fitzgerald. Bricktop said it was a place you didn't have to pretend. Noel Coward at the piano sometimes. Porter trying out tunes quietly.
And I'm in Love Again sort of captured that vibe.
Our source thinks so, that intoxicated devil-may-care feeling. Bricktop was singing it the first time Porter saw her perform, and he stayed to listen, which apparently meant he approved.
Their story of their first real meeting is great. He comes in late, orders hash.
She's singing, the drummer recognizes Porter, she has that oh my god moment, realizing who it is, and that she just sang his song. Then the next night, he just asks if she can dance the Charleston. Simple as that.
And she felt they were real friends, not just patrons.
Definitely. Her testimony in the source is really striking. She pushes back against the idea of him being cold or aloof. Said he was shy, hated snobs, tried not to be rude, called him one of the best friends I've ever had.
That's powerful. And then there's Leslie Hutchinson Hutch, introduced via Bricktop.
Yeah. Pianist, singer, originally from Grenada, came to Paris after a truly terrifying KKK incident in Florida.
And he and Porter clicked.
Big time. Shared expensive tastes. Hutch started copying Porter's style, down to the carnation. Porter took him under his wing, taught him socially, intellectually, musically.
Porter's subversive irony rubbed off on Hutch's style.
That's what the source suggests, yeah. And Porter, who our source notes had a faiblesse for black men, was apparently captivated by Hutch's mix of talent, looks, wit, timing.
Trying out songs on the double piano, Hutch became a key interpreter.
A favorite. Taught exactly how Porter wanted them sung. Monty Woolley said his talents went far beyond the keyboard. High praise.
Hutch was at all the parties, the floating nightclub. He credited Porter hugely right.
Called him the greatest man in music ever known, said Porter was an education. He felt lucky to be there as Porter's career took off.
But Hutch wanted real acceptance, not just being seen as an exotic black performer.
Yes, and our source includes Charlotte Breese's point that maybe some expat acceptance was a bit shallow, like toying with the exotic. That tension surfaced with the whole Lady Mountbatten affair and trial in England,
where she had to deny the relationship publicly. Rough.
Very. But Hutch became a huge star in London afterwards. Monty Woolley's description is wild. The Steinway white tie, the handkerchief gesture making women swoon, calls him a legendary stud.
And Porter wrote, I'm a gigolo for him, immortalizing those exploits.
Exactly. Now, the source does bring up that challenging claim that Hutch pimped for Cole and his friends, organized sleazy parties.
But it immediately adds that there's no evidence he treated anyone cruelly or felt superior.
Right. It presents both sides, acknowledging the claim but pushing back against a simplistic negative interpretation. It kind of forces you to grapple with the complexity of those relationships in that specific, very different time and place, not making excuses but avoiding easy judgments.
Which leads to that broader tension in Porter's life. Public image versus private life. The source quotes that motto, class is what you display, sex is what you hide.
And suggests his power, money, and style helped cover his tracks, mostly, until friends like Monty Woolley started talking later.
Woolley, the sparring partner in bars and bordellos, He was more open.
Much more so, according to the source. There are quotes attributed to Woolley via Grafton about seeking sex in Harlem, mentioning young black studs, male prostitution. It paints a picture.
Including Breeze's claim about Hutch and parties in Montmartre.
And of course, that infamous Venice incident in 27, the police raid, finding Italian boys in Linda's clothes at the Palazzo Rezzonico, including the police chief's son.
Yikes. No wonder they left town quickly.
You think? But importantly, our source really argues against biographies that just focus on this dark side and portray him as cold or untouchable.
It says they ignore his generosity, his open attitude towards African Americans.
Exactly, and his genuine respect for talent, regardless of background.
And what are the two key things the source says these accounts miss?
His strong empathy with outcasts of society and his lifelong opposition to censorship. Two huge pillars often overlooked.
And Paris was the perfect incubator for that, right? The tolerance, the visible queer communities.
Absolutely. Stein and Toklas, Diaghilev, Natalie Barney. It was a different world. Robert Kimball, in our source, calls Porter an apostle of freedom, fighting censorship through his art, mocking society, mocking the establishment.
Like in the Lost Liberty Blues, the Statue of Liberty complaining about America.
Perfect example. Contrasting U.S. restrictions, prohibition, conservatism with Parisian freedom. Uncle Sam making a mess of her success, as the lyrics say.
And the biggest censorship battle was Love for Sale, banned on U.S. radio for years.
And Porter genuinely couldn't understand it. Our source quotes him asking why you could write novels or paint pictures about a prostitute's humanity, but not write a song.
Our source really rates that song highly, doesn't it? Compares it to Schubert Lieder.
Calls it immensely original, no cliche, breathtaking. Says the haunting melody conveys this deep empathy that maybe just scared conservative America, even led to changing the singer from white to black mid-run because of the controversy.
Wow. So pulling it all together, Ethan Morton's idea, mentioned in the source, that Porter's art is defined by difference.
Yes. That absolute liberty in Europe let him fully explore that difference, push boundaries.
His subjects, those marginal characters, become a kind of rejection of correct citizenship, a preference for the subculture of the different.
That's the argument.
Yeah.
And the music itself is different. Tunes gliding over the beat, worldly, naughty lyrics, double meanings. Love is achingly hot, not tied down by bourgeois cautions.
And that difference came from moving between all those different worlds in Europe. High society, artists, jazz clubs.
Exactly. Gaining those multiple perspectives, our source links this to Foucault's idea of souci de soi, making your life a work of art.
So the hedonism, seizing the day, but also this really disciplined dedication to writing every day.
That combination, yeah. And Brendan Gill's point, quoted in the source, that maybe judging him for being a snob misses the mark.
Because he furnished the world with far more joy than he got back. Listeners come away with dancing feet.
Right. Maybe that's the answer to accusations of being cold or rude or perverted, as some called it. Look at the work, the joy, the empathy in the songs.
So ultimately, our source sees Porter and his art as these extraordinary prisms for understanding the 20th century.
Yeah, a product of the upper-class, total style icon, but also this subversive figure with real empathy for outcasts. His songs, like those great European leader, explore the condition humane, helping us transcend struggles, even if it's just on a dance floor.
So after this deep dive, it really hits home, doesn't it? How much those European years, the people, the culture clashes, the artistic ferment, how much it all poured into making Cole Porter's style so unique.
Absolutely. It shaped his innovations, gave him that ability to write about the high life and find empathy for the fringes. It wasn't just one thing.
Your source material really gave us this rich, complex picture. So many anecdotes, insights.
Yeah.
It feels much more vibrant than just the standard biography.
It really does. It brings him and that whole era to life in a different way.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you, building on all this. If Porter's art was so deeply woven from his environment, his relationships, his European experiences, what about us? Well, what aspects of our own lives, our surroundings, the people we know, the places we go, what might we be unconsciously weaving into the art we create every day, whether that's actual art or just how we live, how we talk, how we connect? Makes you think, doesn't it?